Hi everyone, this is Dragon GGY and this is the operator Hindsight for the latest limited operator, Lappland the Decadenza. Let's get to it. Lappland the Decadenza is a 6-star mech-accord caster in the caster class. Trait of the Archetype controls drones to deal odds damage to an enemy. When the drone continuously attacks the same target, its damage will increase up to 110% of attack. It is a little vague by description, so let's dig deeper. The mech, or drones as a general name, deals additional instances of damage when attacking. So if there's one drone, then it's 2 instances of damage per attack, one from the operator themselves and one from the drone. So if there are more drones, there will be even more instances. Drones have a ramp-up mechanic to their damage when they hit the same target consecutively. It starts at just 20% of the operator's attack and builds 15% more after each hit, capping at 110%, so they deal max damage starting from the 7th hit. If they switch target, or when they redeploy, that attack scale for drones will be reset back to 20%, so generally you would prefer them to not switch targets as much as possible. When they have multiple drones, each drone will have their independent stacking progress, like how with Golden Glow and one of her drones explodes and switches targets, it will reset the damage scale, but other drones that remained locked on this original target will maintain their damage scale. So with such trait that puts enormous emphasis on stacking, the Archetype has the shortest attack interval in caster at 1.3 seconds. And because of full stack, it is 100% of attack from the operator and 110% of attack from the drone. That's more than twice the attack number, even higher with more drones. So the Archetype starts at a very low attack stat line. I'm talking about the bottom of all operators in the same rarity. So that's the trade-off there. When in skill, drones will become detached from the operator, and they will continue to do damage even when the operator themselves cannot attack from statuses. Most mech-accord casters also have skills that allow drones to stay locked on a target and attacking them until the target is defeated or when the skill ends. And that's no different on Lappland. Let's check out her talents. Talent 1, for every 20 seconds on field, 16 seconds with potential 6, drones gain one of the following effects in order. 1. Increases max drone damage by 10%. 2. When dealing damage, disable the target's special abilities, also known as the silent effect, for 2 seconds. And 3. Gets 1 additional drone. Max drone damage increase is by multiplication, so 10% more from 110% means a 121% cap. It doesn't change the build-up increment though, so if you read the diagram here, one more hit is needed for reaching the maximum damage. You can see whether or not she's fully warmed up by looking at the wolf shadow next to Lappland during op skill. If there are 2, which means 2 drones, that means she's all fired up. Overall, this is a pretty significant talent for improving damage. It does require 60 seconds to fully warm up before full potential, and only 48 seconds with potential 6. Now, for the case of her skill 3, if you kick it off as soon as it's ready, which takes 10 seconds at full potential, so for the 40-second skill 3, the additional drone will become available in the last 2 seconds of the skill, which I wouldn't say is any groundbreaking. Full potential or not, if you start the skill without holding onto it, which is the case most of the time, the performance in the first use is impacted, and for the second use, full potential or not, talent 1 will be fully stacked up, so there's no need to be super worried about the potential thing. The damage increase part of it brings around 5% improvement to her damage, and the extra drone is a straight up 18% increase, so very significant. Silence is something that can come out as a surprise from time to time, and it goes full map and AoE with skill 3. Very significant against gimmicks like Refraction in chapter 9. Talent 2, when in squad, all Shirakuza operators gain 5 initial SP, 6 at potential 3. All Shirakuza operators are shown on the right here. The Chiave gang 3 are also Shirakuzano. Texas and Texas Alter are currently considered Penguin Logistics and not Shirakuzano, but will be included into Shirakuza 6 months later with the multi-faction update. So, at the end of the day, it's more for Lappland herself for a faster startup. It's a pretty nice startup bonus for Vanguards, namely Chiave, Vigil, and in the same banner, Volpis Fortlia, reducing their needs for Bagpipe. And honestly, Lappland plus Vulpes Folia is a pretty good alternative to your Flagpipe combos if you want some extra firepower. Another one worth mentioning would be Penance with skill 3, 6 SP to a 20 SP defensive recovery requirement is also nice, but overall not very game changing, at least not enough to have a meta impact on related operators. But continuing from this talent, should we take a look at her module that comes with a release as well? Trade update, her drones now start at 35% attack as the initial damage scale, and the upgrades go to her talent 2, where all Yakuza operators will also get 10 attack speed starting from their first skill activation, which is basically free. So the base, it allows the drones to start stacking one step ahead without changing the maximum cap, so it's here to reduce the loss of damage when switching targets, which is reasonable. It gives a higher floor to her damage, but not too much to the ceiling. Upgrades are for some easy to achieve attack speed, which translates to 4 more attacks during skill 3. So at the end of the day, this is another damage focused module. The base provides about 5.4% damage increase, mostly for lessening the damage difference between she's constantly switching targets and focusing on just one target. At level 3, the module provides up to 22.3% damage increase for skill 3. For its support merits to the Yakuza operators, honestly, I can't say I can name one that's gonna benefit considerably from attack speed and is super viable or relevant at this time. Maybe Angelina with her IS specialized module, but usually you won't be picking both of them in the same run. So my conclusion, level 1 plus definitely recommended. Level 3 is just the damage improvement you can expect from a module, but considering Lappland is a very versatile damage dealer in actually quite some time, so I would certainly encourage going for level 3. Next, let's take a look at the skills. My recommendation is skill 3 over skill 2 over skill 1. Skill 3 is definitely her signature skill, full map targeting damage skill with high total damage, AoE damage, and crowd control. The evident downside of it is the long cooldown, but still a very solid skill. Skill 2 is a single target focus skill with decent DPS and skill coverage, and is sometimes used instead of skill 3 for maximum damage on one target, as well as a faster cycle. Skill 1 is a specialized, fast startup AFK skill that literally targets AFK enemies. It's also full map targeting, but comes with quite a twist, which we will elaborate. Skill 1, passive, starts with one more drone, and can switch between default and the following state. Attack plus 35%, release drones to randomly lock onto and attack idle enemies or non-moving enemies in the entire map, and will reseek target when the target moves or is defeated. This is a 0/6 switch skill. Numbers can be found in the table, and they are always the best stat possible, meaning full talent 1 stacks and when the drones are at maximum damage scale. Now don't let the total DPS deceive you, there are some major issues with the skill, but still let's walk through the mechanics first. The skill targets enemies with no movement speed at the moment of attack, so it will include ranged enemies that stop for a brief moment to attack, or enemies who are being blocked. It will not target enemies that are in respawn, invincible, or being shifted or teleporting. It will stay locked on the target until they move or is defeated. To actively change target, all you can do is to switch the skill off and on again and pray that the drones go target someone else. And that leads to a problem. The drones will target stationary map equipment like the waste hit vent in the Black Steel event and the beacon in episode 14. They will stay locked onto them basically until forever. On the flip side, they can indeed be used for activating equipment from a safe distance like the emergency hitters and the tuning nodes, given that they are no longer targetable after activation. Other than that, if there are enemies that frequently move and stop, for example a ranged enemy that is targeting someone, it will cause drones to constantly switch targets, which keep the damage scale low. Overall, it's an interesting concept, but it's not a good fit for the archetype. Skill 2, drone plus 3 attack range expands, attack plus 120%. Release drones to randomly lock onto an attack enemy, with a 10% chance to inflict fear on the target for 1 second when attacking. When the locked target is defeated, the drones search for enemies again and return to the operator when the skill ends. This is a 18/28 22-second auto skill, same range as Golden Glow skill 2. The skill deals up to 120k damage over 22 seconds with a solid DPS of 5492. This is a high DPS single target focus skill. Lappland commands up to 5 drones during the skill, which is never heard of from other mech-accord casters, building up to a very high DPS. The skill has a short or medium duration and short cooldown at 20 ASP, which is just about half of skill 3, who is at 54. The skill comes with a RNG fear trigger, and since she has 5 drones during the skill, 10% chance to trigger fear per drone means an overall 40.95% chance to trigger 1 second fear in each attack. That, under her 1.167 second attack interval, means that the fear coverage of this skill is 35%. So that, when compared to Nim's skill 2, which has a coverage of 38%, this skill clearly is inferior in terms of crowd control, not to mention that Nim's skill 2 is a 12 SP loop skill, while Lappland's skill 2 is a 50-second cycle skill where there's a 28-second downtime. So all it does is keeping the enemy away for some extra time to ensure the damage output, but at the same time can lead to enemies walking out of the range, and she may lose the damage from herself. This skill is in a very similar situation to Logos' skill 2 to his skill 3. It has higher on paper DPS to a single target, but in practice most people would still use the more versatile skill 3. But at least Lappland's skill 3 isn't that dominant, so sometimes you could end up using skill 2. Let's talk limitations first. Again, it has random targeting, so if there are several targets, damage will be split between them. Problem with that is that if it goes onto the weaker targets, when you take them out and have the drones retarget the tougher one, they again end up having to restack the damage. Considering that this skill only does 19 hits in duration, spending 6 hits for rebuilding that damage is gonna take a lot of potential damage away. So when do you use this skill? First and foremost, it should always be a single target situation. Second is when you have attack or more preferably attack speed buffs like in integrated strategy, since this is the most buff potent skill of Lappland. Third case, you want a faster cycle than skill 3, or you want to avoid full map targeting because there are unfavorable map or enemy elements. Skill 3, drone plus 2, attack plus 80%. Release special drones that scatter and chase down the nearest enemy in the entire map. When reaching the target, inflicts fear for 3 seconds. Log onto and attack the target. Enemies within a 0.9 tile radius around drones have their movement speed reduced by 50% and takes 120% of attack as arts damage every second, which doesn't suck. When the locked target is defeated, the drones search for enemies again and returns to the operator when the skill ends. This is a 38/54 40-second skill. The drones do 993.6 DOT, and the skill does up to 190k damage with a 4.7k DPS. Again, let's talk mechanics. The special drones in this skill behave differently. They are moving entities that need to travel in the map, as opposed to Golden Glow skill 3 where her drones would just lock onto targets in no time. But when the special drones reach the target, they will start to behave like they usually do. Do note that the DOT is always active regardless of the state of the drones. So for those squishy enemies, they may die from the DOT before the drones even attach to them. The skill starts with the drone scattering. Within the 1.3 seconds after skill activation, drones will scatter evenly based on Lappland's facing direction. So one drone will always go out in her facing direction, and others will spread out with a 120 degree or 90 degree per drone depending on her current talent 1 stack. Drones scatter at an initial speed of 0.1 tile per second and accelerate to 2 tiles per second in 1 second. The scattering is to ensure that drones can find targets in different parts of the stage as much as possible. After scattering, it's time for the chase. Target priority for drones are targets closest to themselves, I mean the drones, then targets closest to Lappland. Counterintuitively, the drones will never prioritize targets closest to the objective, which is how normal targeting works 99% of the time, so definitely keep an eye out for that. Drones will travel towards the target at an initial speed of 2 tiles per second, accelerating to up to 4 tiles per second in 2 seconds. Targets that are being hunted by a drone will have a red eye mark above them. When the current target is defeated or becomes no longer targetable, the special drone will reappear in a random position within a square area with a 1.5 tile side length, starting at 2 tiles per second initial speed again. If there are no available targets on the field, drones will start to move in a circular path with a 0.9 tile radius to the left of its current direction, traveling counterclockwise at a linear speed of 1.0. So, what are the takeaways? First, it's a distance-based targeting, and the drones bite the target until they are dead, which, if you don't pay attention, can lead to some unintended results. Drones will be hard stuck on unintended targets, where Golden Glow Skill 3 usually wouldn't prioritize, and even when she does, she can switch targets after an explosion. I think it's also clear that the more distance the drones need to travel in skill, the more potential damage would be wasted. Also, there are crowd controls involved. The AoE movement speed reduction is a powerful crowd control bonus that can help to hinder enemies in multiple spots on the map and keep them together for the DOT damage. It's effective and visually pleasing at the same time. The fear on catch-up, however, isn't the most inspiring design, in my opinion. It can keep enemies away for a short moment, but it's one-off after all. And since the target also gets a movement speed reduction, they barely walk back. It may also cause enemies to regain their invisibility because they are unblockable during fear. And if you try her in her own event, you'll know what I mean. With all that said, let's talk about damage side of things. Again, Lappland can deal up to 190k plus damage in skill, that is when the drones almost never travel beyond scattering from her, and Lappland herself lands all her own attacks. In comparison, Golden Glow Skill 3 deals about 70k damage. The gap is stuck on paper, but they have very different cycles and skill durations, so that's not really saying much. The damage composition of both Lappland and Golden Glow Skill 3 can be seen on the right. Golden Glow Skill 3 has a higher AoE proportion, her AoE are also wider. More importantly, besides just more damage from attack speed, more attacks also means more explosions, so the AoE proportion will actually go up as attack speed increases. On the other hand, Lappland's AoE damage takes up less proportion of the damage, and it doesn't scale with attack speed increase at all, so as attack speed continues to grow, the AoE part will take up less and less of her total damage. The movement speed of drones are also unaffected by attack speed, so the more attack speed, the more they miss out during their travel. That said, Lappland does have one more drone than GG, so her drone damage is gonna benefit slightly more from attack speed. And finally, Lappland also has about 15% damage on herself, which realistically is not fully dished out 99% of the time when the drones are doing their jobs all over the place. So in conclusion, it's very unlikely that Lappland can hit that 190k damage in practice. Like, you can say it's straight up impossible. So from that, we can summarize the pros and cons. Number 1 in the pro list, full map targeting. I'd say it's more than half of her appeal. Art's DOT helps to take out trash mobs in a quick manner, saving some time for her drones to log on, manifest, and re-log on, which can be a thing for Golden Glow if explosions don't occur. High total damage potential, so with limited enemies she's more likely to get the job done. Distance-based targeting is kinda a double-edged sword. Good thing about it is that it can ignore enemy taunt, and you can manipulate where Lappland is to target specific enemies on the map with all the drones. Bad thing, like we said, it can get hard stuck on unintended stuffs. The drone traveling mechanic also means that the benefit from attack speed is watered down. Quickly, before we wrap up, let's go over some notable synergies. First of all, bards. Bards are very impactful buff providers due to the low inherent attack stat of mech-accord casters. Scott the Alter Skill 2 comes with unlimited duration, AFK friendliness, and will boost Lappland's damage by 39.7% to 266k. You may also opt to use Sivla Eterna Skill 2, which instead is a 35-second duration skill that doesn't match up as good, but do boost her damage furthermore. by 55.6% to 296k. There are also upcoming operators that add more to her power. Yu in the coming CMY banner provides burn damage enchantment, which is powerful combined with the full map attacks of Lappland. They have quite the matching cycles, and burn itself provides resistance shred, which is crucial for Lappland. Then, let's skip to the next part if you are avoiding spoilers. This operator in 5 months monster is able to provide massive attack speed buff with her skill 2, so if you're playing the dual mech-accord team, she'll be able to buff both of them, and that's massive for the archetype. So, in summary, Lappland is a 6-star mech-accord caster that has landed in the meta with her high damage and the fact that it covers the entire map. Talent 1 is a starting point of her power, giving absurd bonus like a straight up drone +1. The drone mechanic design really reflects the chaos and madness of her character by having all sorts of random targeting, scattering enemies with fear, and doesn't budge after biting the target. But at the end of the day, I would still say the pros for those designs are enough to outshine the cons, and the user experience from her signature high damage and full map targeting is undeniably good. For performance in coming events, she's a new candidate for your daily 12. Full map is quite brainless to be honest, so here's an example. A simple flag pipe duel for DP, Skadi Altar for buffing our mech-accord caster duel, a 4-sway team where Yu can provide burn enchantment, Chongyue can link hole and also benefits from Skadi Altar, throw in the minimum build of AH team with Alpianus and Gladia, who can also further increase the buff provided by Skadi Altar. Finish up with your favorite character, or if you want to play it safe, a medic or someone else. In Reclamation algorithm, keep in mind that her full map attack is only effective when vision is available, so that will be the nerds with the recon towers or battles in the base and front lines. In normal encounters, it's more likely that her drones will be stuck on resources, so keep an eye out for that. Lappland is an impactful character to have in IS, especially in IS-5 with the introduction of Expansion 1, where the Lamp of Wishes makes obtaining Hands of Undulation, its corresponding handbook, and the full King series a standardized procedure, giving Lappland, and usually alongside Golden Glow, the SP charging and attack speed that she needs. Beyond that, Lappland continues to find highlights in upcoming game modes like Stronghold Protocol, which should be coming to global after the current event, and the Football and Bastion defense in Icebreaker games when it returns in about 4 months. And again, she had those performances mostly for her full map capability. For daily, I have her at 8. I believe many of you know the experience of using Golden Glow skill 3 for a daily back in the day, and Lappland kinda brings that back and better than ever. Her skills are very straightforward, one click and it goes full map. Skill 3 is versatile and effective in wiping out the full battlefield in one skill use, and she actually works with all the synergies we mentioned very well. Not ideal in certain stages or against certain enemies, yes, but most of the time it works well enough for your game experience. For advanced, I have her as 7. Again, she has the 2 merits that makes a good damage dealer. 1, actually dealing high damage. 2, having very good range, in this case, global range. And like we said, mech-accord caster is the most buff potent archetype in casters. You may or may not have tried Golden Glow skill 3 in super high attack speed runs in IS, and Lappland is no different. So IS is certainly her biggest stage in advanced content. And with the full map targeting, she's just naturally finding relevance in any stage or game mode that will gain you an upper hand with global range. And finally, for numbers, her damage numbers are good. Her problem mostly lies in her longer cycles. Full analysis, in a nutshell, if you want some extra QOL to your daily experience or some global targeting to add to your arsenal, do not miss out. There are restrictions, but not enough to downplay her value. Apart from what we analyzed, Lappland is also a newbie-friendly operator. Her skill 2 is decent to cover her E1, and prioritizing her E2 certainly wouldn't go wrong. Sure, she's not a complete upgrade over Golden Glow, but I still think the best way out is using them together. For schedule and meta, a lot of the upcoming game modes and existing ones have Lappland's name on it, and she's certainly getting better and better with more synergies brought by operators released in the coming months. Anyway, that's gonna be it for this episode. I wanted to get this out on time so much, but what can I say? I couldn't outrun the pre-holiday week. Episodes for Wolbus Folia and Crown Slayer are on their way, but they will be coming over the course of May. Hope this episode helps you out in some way, and hopefully we see you again soon in another episode. Thank you all for watching. Goodbye.